Welcome to another edition of Living with Purpose. Today I have a young, brilliant individual, Sam Vaghar, who is the founder and executive director of the Millennium Campus Network, which works with young people at universities around the world, getting them to really think about the social impact work they will do. This is how I met Sam many years ago now. This has been his 18th year since he's been running the network, and the impact that he has created is just amazing. This is just one individual who's been completely driven by his purpose and discovered it at an early age. So please join me in welcoming Sam to our podcast. Sam, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So Sam, talk a little bit about your journey. Where were you born? Your parents, the environment you grew up in, and then we'll slowly move towards why you founded this organization and what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Vaghar, and thank you for your leadership and support early on in this journey that helped us catalyze the movement that we have today. I was born in England, raised in the suburbs of Boston, and grew up with a mother from England and a father from Iran. And so they came from two backgrounds, two different countries, two different faiths. The differences were pretty apparent from day one, but I think it also cultivated in me a commitment to seeing across identities and across borders from when I was very young. And so I was raised in Greater Boston, went through public schools, Newton Public Schools, and didn't love my time in high school. Was kind of an outsider, hadn't found my voice or purpose yet, certainly had not. Applied to a bunch of universities, most of them rejected me. And then I got in off the wait list barely to Brandeis University. My mom cried when I got into Brandeis, and she said, "That's the school for you." So I said, "Okay, I'm going there, Mom." And at first, I was just trying to make up for 4 years of high school feeling like an outsider, just trying to socialize and party. And then I read 2 books that changed my life. One is a book I recommend to everybody I meet with, including everybody listening today. And that book is Mountains Beyond Mountains. And Mountains Beyond Mountains tells the story of a doctor named Paul Farmer and an organization, Partners in Health. When Paul was 23, stole medical supplies from Harvard, volunteered in Haiti, became a doctor, worked in 12 countries across 35 years building the movement for public health equity. Then read The End of Poverty by the economist Jeffrey Sachs. Taking those 2 books together, they elucidated for me the orders of magnitude of challenges that communities face every single day, but that we also have power and agency to respond to those challenges, especially as young people. So as a 19-year-old, put down those books, picked up the phone, cold emailed Professor Sachs, went down to Columbia University 2 days later, met with his team. I said, "Look, I'm a second-year student at Brandeis University. I don't have many answers, but I know that we can do more. I know we as young people can do more, and I want to figure out what role we might play in advancing." At the time, it was the 8 Millennium Development Goals, now the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And so came back to campus, started small public health fundraisers. In the fall of 2007, brought student organization leaders together from across the city of Boston. And we said, look, we're all focused on making a difference, but we're doing this work in silos. Those silos minimize our impact, minimize the fusion of knowledge. What would happen if we collaborated? And 6 months later, we had our first summit at MIT with 1,000 student leaders from across the country and globe, with Paul Farmer and Jeff Sachs and John Legend and grassroots civic leaders. They all joined our board of advisors. They said, "We're in, let's help build this student network for the goals." I said, "I'm 20 years old. I'm not sure what this is just yet, but let's give it a shot." And so we launched Millennium Campus Network, MCN, as a platform to support civically engaged undergraduates. And that was in our dorm rooms 18 years ago.
For one second, I want to go back. This is just fascinating, right? So talk just a little bit more about your growing up, your family, siblings. I mean, Newton is a great town to grow up in.
It is.
Right? I mean, and Brandeis is not too far away. But just talk a little bit about, some of these formative years Iranian father, British mother. What did they bring to you and the family? And what were some conversations that got you to think into these areas?
Yeah, it's a great question. Two things that I would lift up from my childhood. One is in terms of I have a brother who's almost 11 years younger than I am, Cyrus, incredible entrepreneur, leader in his own right, just incredible brother. And then I think the gift that our parents gave us is that they centered us. They put my brother and I first, and I saw through their example what it means to put other people first. And that is rare. And so seeing how they really prioritized our needs, our aspirations. My mom is a great advocate. So anytime I had some kind of issue, she would, when I was younger, go and advocate for me. When I was 11 years old, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which was pretty difficult period.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it was really difficult. It was, it started with obviously some pain and discomfort upon eating. And it got to the point where if I would even be at the dinner table and smell food, I would be writhing on the ground in pain on the floor. Yeah. So it was a really difficult period of time when I was really just entering into middle school. And my mom was the advocate. She was always adamant that, I get the best care possible. And both of my parents made sure that I took a pretty unique path to Crohn's where I never took steroids for it, which a lot of patients do. Never ended up needing surgery, which I'm really grateful and blessed for. But yeah, they were always there for me and my brother. And that's, I don't know, there's no better gift in life or in the world that I've received to date than that love and unconditional support from them.
Thank you for sharing that story. My youngest son also has Crohn's, and we know that it is a autoimmune disease and you have to manage it and change your lifestyle, and it has a massive impact on what you do. So thank you very much for sharing that. I also remember being at that conference at MIT when you started the Millennium Campus Network. It was just very fascinating to see so many young people, rally around issues. So here you are going through middle class upbringing. I'm assuming your parents, or at least your father, are professionals. They must have come into this country either because of education or to start something, and you led, a middle-class life.
Well, so my father was, he actually recently retired. He was a geotechnical engineer, similar to civil engineers, spent more than 2 decades with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And my mother is a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And Newton is an incredible place to grow up. It's a beautiful place. And I think, I was really fortunate growing up here in the greater Boston area because we have Children's Hospital Boston here. So when I had Crohn's, I could get, incredible health care and support. And Newton Public Schools are incredible. Some teachers who really went out of the way to try and personalize the educational experience for me. I think at the same time, even as idyllic as a place like Newton is, there's always room to improve and do better. And so I knew, my high school, Newton North High School, was, I think, 2,300 students. So it was really large for a high school. It felt like you're just a number. That's how I felt. And so I didn't really fit in. And I still remember this ethics teacher, Gary Schiffman, who really took me under his wing. I was trying to figure out, to your point around purpose, what is my purpose here? Yeah. Why are we here in school? Because a lot of teachers I felt like we're, teaching to a test or getting ready for the SATs or AP exams or whatever the case may be. But we never paused to ask why we're doing what we're doing. And this ethics teacher, he encouraged me to read. I read Nietzsche and Kant, and I said, what's real? Are we really here? Is this being really here? All of those kinds of existential questions. I went through, I'd say, an existential crisis as a 15-year-old, went all the way across the terrain to the cliff's edge to say what's real and what's not. And for me, what gave me clarity of purpose was those books that I read in undergrad, where I started to realize I could philosophize about everything, or I could start to do things about acute challenges that people are facing here and now.
So clearly, all of this, and the work that Paul Farmer and Jeffrey Sachs, these are just incredible people that have done some wonderful work. And I saw the energy in the room when you actually build this program out. So now here you are, 18 years out. Talk a little bit about that journey, the number of people that you got engaged. I know that President Obama was part of this whole effort. So talk a little bit about how you've been able to mobilize a global youth community.
Well, it's a great question. There's power in partnership, collaboration, and stakeholders coming together, which you see visibly in a conference setting, obviously. We don't do it alone. No organization does it alone. I'm really grateful to you during your tenure at Microsoft to have the vision and foresight to say, hey, let's partner up together. Because when you're just starting out in your early 20s trying to envision a network like this, it's hard, right? It's hard to get students aligned and on board. It's hard to get philanthropies aligned and on board, and higher education itself. And so thank you to you for having that vision early on with us. And then how we grew. I mean, my purpose and North Star in all of this is helping young people own their voices and their power to make a difference. And so I think it was really important to clarify that for myself and for us as a team. It's really what was guiding us. We had 9 global summits, brought together thousands of young leaders. What we found with summits is that there's incredible energy, but the energy dissipates. I mean, you'll have like 3 days, a huge high, and then everyone says, well, what's next? And it's also hard to measure the impact of a 3-day convening. You can say, oh, well, these people met, there's a new collaboration, but it can be difficult to measure. So in 2013, we really got to the roots to try to understand what are the gaps and how can we as one small nonprofit be additive? How can we help young people secure the career pathways that they want in social impact, secure the resources that they need? And where we landed to help young leaders build power was honing in on these 3 key gaps in the market: training, community, and credentials. So we said, if we can provide training, community, and credentials to young civic leaders on campuses, they can then go exercise civic agency, build civic power, secure those career pathways and resources. And when we launched the Millennium Fellowship Vaghar in 2013, we were hoping, we're based in a college town in Boston, so we're hoping for a big turnout. We did not get a big turnout. We got 15 applicants the first year, and we had an inaugural class of 11 Millennium Fellows. But we just committed ourselves to the process of building trust with those young leaders, really tight feedback loops, asking consistently what's working in this curriculum and program and what's not, and refining it year over year. And it grew incrementally from 11 Millennium Fellows the first year to 18 the next year to 40 the next year. It's a semester-long civic leadership program. It's 10 civic leadership sessions that happen cohort-based on campuses with virtual components layered on top of them. And that model, a hybrid model of meeting face-to-face with your cohort on your campus, but also being linked up to peers around the world through SDG conversation hours and webinars with industry leaders, and then applying what you're learning in real time to grassroots initiatives in your community, advancing one or more of the SDGs. That model really worked. And so the Millennium Fellowship started with 15 applicants and 11 Millennium Fellows. This year, for the Millennium Fellowship class of 2025, we have more than 60,000 applicants.
Wow.
This is coast to coast and around the world. We have active fellowship cohorts at 280 universities, coast to coast in the U.S. and in 48 countries around the world. And we work with about 4,000 to 5,000 Millennium Fellows each year. So it truly has become a grassroots movement.
I mean, just to our listeners, one of the principles that I have in my book, Purpose Mindset, is putting on a lens of abundance. We put on a lens of scarcity all the time. What happens is when you start, you start. You might expect, this is the cat's meow and everyone will show up. But that's never the case. So you start. But once you start and you apply, you get a snowballing effect. And what you have just, articulated, Sam, I want our listeners, especially our young listeners, that start. You have the power to start. And you have the power in you to keep continuing. And if you keep continuing and applying, things will grow. So, Sam, I am just so thrilled that you are on this journey. And today, with that 60,000 applications, 5,000 people, that's a huge transformational change that you're achieving. So, where are you today? What's next?
Yeah, I think for us, one of the questions we're often asked is, what's next for the Millennium Fellows and where do they go? And what's been really powerful looking at our alumni survey data from the most recent survey, 87% of Millennium Fellowship alumni who are now employed or working in social impact careers post-graduation. And that for me and for us, that is the goal, because it's not enough, given the state of our world, to have people engage, short term for a semester. We're really helping to guide people to be more prepared for and more inclined towards social impact careers long term. And whether that's in NGOs or whether that's in corporate responsibility or supply chain sustainability or impact investing, there are so many different pathways to a career with impact. We want to help all of those young leaders on campuses, those undergrads who are inclined towards those, to get on that path and sustain. And so that for us is the North Star. Beyond that, the program has grown organically year over year. We have an incredible partner, year 8 of our partnership with the United Nations Academic Impact. And so we built out this network, this program together. I think where we go from here, there's the little things, the foundational things I want to make sure we get right. Right now, our content is in English. I want to be able to translate the curriculum into multiple languages. We want to grow our presence at MSIs, at minority serving institutions across the U.S. So there's some intentional outreach work that we need to do. And then most importantly, I think, is really building out a robust alumni network. We've got 20,000 alumni now of our community. And so what do we do with them? We invite 250 of them each year to be on our global admissions committee, to read literally thousands and thousands and thousands of finalist applications each summer. But I think there's a lot more we can do with our alumni, and so want to build out the robust supports to make that reality.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic, right? Thank you so very much for sharing that. So as we wind down with the podcast, talk a little bit about the importance of purpose and how purpose has continued to drive you and how that has allowed you to overcome challenges.
I think purpose is everything. Purpose is everything. For me, at times, it's the lighthouse in the storm when things are difficult, because especially when you're on an entrepreneurial journey, there will be highs and lows. That's part of what you sign up for. And so there are those tough moments when a partnership doesn't manifest, or a student doesn't have a great experience, and you're wondering, are we on the right path, or do we need to adjust? But I think the beauty of having purpose, and again, I know for us, helping young people own their voices and their power to make a difference, it provides tremendous clarity. Because if that's where we're going, if that's our guiding light, then maybe we do need to adjust the program. Maybe we do need to refine it. And that's okay, because we're still working towards the ultimate goal. As long as we're committed and not having mission drift or kind of losing sight of why we're here and why we exist, then I'm always open to adaptation, to being flexible and malleable and thinking really creatively about how we best serve young people, because especially when you're working on campuses, young people are changing constantly. We have new generations entering every few years. And so the opportunity to adapt with them is really pivotal. But for me, purpose is what is grounding and keeps us rooted and focused on what matters most.
I love your analogy of purpose is your lighthouse in a storm. So as we end, give me your one golden nugget.
My one golden nugget would be, I think you already hit on it, Akhtar, which is start small. Start small. You don't have to build the whole network in a day. And in fact, 18 years in, I've seen plenty of organizations enter into the youth civic engagement space with a big splash, and they'll say, oh, we're at 500 campuses or 1,000 campuses. But They didn't do the foundational work to build the infrastructure and the scaffolding, and most importantly, the deep relationships that actually sustain a network. And so within a couple of years, those networks have shrunk back down. So what I would say is start small, listen intently, listen closely, and then build with community, co-create the solution together.
Sam, thank you so very much. It's been a delight, and it's also just so wonderful to reconnect with you and to see the success that you've had. New dad, enjoy that experience. And again, to our listeners, purpose is that renewable source of energy, that lighthouse that continues to move humanity forward. Thank you for listening. Until next time for the next episode, Sam, thank you so very much for being on it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.